Today's emphasis is on the herbs part of the KISS method, keeping it simple, 105. So the most important thing to remember is that we pick up these fresh herbs, like this is Italian parsley, at the store, and then we come home and we put them in the bag and we throw them in the fridge. And unless you're going to cook dinner tonight with that, and actually tomorrow's not looking so good for cooking either, this is not the way to store it. So my goal is that you have fresh herbs for a whole week, and that is very doable. And there's just 3 simple things, so stick with the video. And the first thing is remove it from the bag, which I did with this cilantro, and then you always want to wash everything, including the herbs in the packets, everything. So I washed this under the sink water really well, and then it's a choice you have. Do you want to wash them really extensively so that they're ready to cook with, or just kind of halfway? And then that way you might want to, because you don't want to bruise them, and then you might wash them again before you cook with them. Okay, so you've done the washing, you've shaken them in the sink because that's a lot of moisture, and then you're going to lay them out on a towel and let them dry for say an hour or so, to let the air take out some of that moisture. At this point then, well, I don't know if you know, but there's these things called herb keepers or herb savers. I don't think they're necessary at all. So would you be so kind as to hand me the deli? This, if you have it, is going to work perfectly like a deli container. The other thing would be, I bought this to freeze soup in the fridge, in the freezer, and so this has an easy container lid, and this is now got water in it, because what you're going to do is take those softer herbs like cilantro, parsley, and put them in here. And you can kind of snip off the bottom and that's okay, but the leaves that fall in the water, that's why you don't want too much water in here. They're not going to do well. And the other thing is, yes, you can mix the parsley and the cilantro together. And then the important part is either put a lid on the container, and then you put it in the fridge, and this way it won't spill. But it has to have a lid. If you don't have a lid on a container, then what you'll do is put a plastic from, say, the grocery store over it, and you can put a rubber band on it to keep it tighter, and that will work just well too. The air that gets to it in the refrigerator really is not good for the herbs staying fresh. Now, when you're washing them, can you use a salad spinner to dry them? You can. I don't think it's necessary to go ahead and get that out of the cabinet, because this method works very well of just laying them out. Now, what about basil? Basil's a separate issue. So if you have fresh basil, and I don't have a lot here, but think of it as a flower bouquet. So I have a container here that has some water in it, but not up to the top, and I'm putting the basil in it. And this is going to sit out on the counter, right? And just sitting out. It's not refrigerated. It will stay very well for at least a week. Should stay very well for at least a week. But what if you have something like a cat and you want to keep the cats from getting to the basil on the counter? Well, this is just a little basket, but if I do this and put this over the top, this serves as a cage, so the cats, for example, can't get to the basil. So that takes care of your basil storage. Now, what about these other herbs? So the thing is like, yes, you could put something like oregano or dill in the water, but you might want to have a different container. But I'm going to show you a different method, because it's hard to get the larger parsleys and all to mingle size-wise with the oregano and such. Now so then another thing that people say is, well, just get out your gardening and start, and you can grow your own herbs, and it's easy. But the fact is, I personally don't have the green thumb. I don't do any gardening or growing. And you either have it or you don't. You either want to do it or you don't. The same thing with cooking. Not everybody likes to cook. So I do buy the containers and these little clamshells. Now what you want to do when you come home with them is also wash them. We're going to talk about why you're doing all this washing. So wash them, and then what you're going to do is take a damp paper towel, and you're going to roll it in here after it's washed, dry a little bit. And then this is how, if you read, people say just stick this in the fridge, and who knows what this is. This is like going to be lost in space. But what you can do then is, and here's an example. See how nicely this is some mint. It fits in its container. And now you know from what's on here what it is. So what you can do is keep your containers over time with the wording on them, and then I would wash them and then reuse them as you happen to buy. Because what if somebody gives you some fresh sage or some fresh dill or some fresh oregano? You can do the same thing. Just wash them and then roll them in a wet paper towel and put them in the container that you already have on hand. Now, one of the questions I get asked a lot is why do you use dried herbs, Deanna, when you could be using fresh? Because some recipes call for dried herbs, and they work very, very well with that. And even the top, cut it off.